Twilight's sparkle, well, she's a perfect representation of what Joseph Campbell called the hero's journey. She starts off isolated, comfortable, sure, but disengaged from the real world and obsessed with her studies. Twilight is, at the beginning, almost entirely defined by her intellectual pursuits. She's the consummate student, dedicated to magic, books, and learning. And these are admirable qualities, certainly. They show her curiosity, her intelligence, and her willingness to work hard. But there's a shadow side to this as well. Her fixation on knowledge leads her to neglect other aspects of life, particularly the social and emotional realms. She doesn't see the value in forming relationships or engaging with others unless it serves her academic goals. In a sense, Twilight embodies the archetype of the disconnected scholar, focused on the mind at the expense of the heart. What we have here is a call to adventure when Princess Celestia sends her to Ponyville. It's not just a physical journey, it's a psychological and emotional challenge. She's essentially thrust into an environment where she must engage socially, and this engagement is, ultimately, what allows her to become more than she was. It's a classic Campbellian call to adventure, but it's also reminiscent of Jung's idea of individuation. Twilight must leave her comfort zone, her known controlled space, and enter into the unpredictable world of social relationships. This is where real growth begins, and it's not easy for her. She struggles with anxiety, with letting go of control, and with understanding that relationships can't be approached in the same way as academic problems. Throughout the series, Twilight faces numerous challenges that expose her weaknesses and force her to grow. One of her most significant flaws is her tendency towards over-control and perfectionism. She wants everything to be just right, and when things deviate from her plan, she often spirals into anxiety. This is evident in episodes like Lesson 0, where her fear of failing to meet Celestia's expectations leads her to cause chaos in Ponyville. This flaw is reminiscent of the pitfalls of over-reliance on order, a theme I have often discussed. Too much order, too much rigidity, and the refusal to accept the unpredictable nature of reality can lead to chaos. Twilight has to learn, repeatedly, that not everything can be controlled, and that sometimes letting go is the only way forward. Another aspect of her growth is learning to trust others and delegate responsibility. In the early stages, Twilight tends to take everything upon herself, believing that if she wants something done right, she must do it herself. This is a common trait among those who are highly competent. They struggle to trust others to meet their standards. Over time, Twilight learns the value of relying on her friends, not just as emotional support, but as equals who bring their own unique strengths to the table. This is particularly highlighted during her transition to becoming the Princess of Friendship. She must learn that leadership isn't about doing everything alone. It's about inspiring and empowering others. Twilight's ascension to princesshood is a significant milestone in her journey. It's not just about gaining wings or a new title. It symbolizes her growth from a self-focused student to a leader who bears the responsibility of others. This transformation is deeply symbolic. It's the culmination of her journey from isolation to community, from knowledge to wisdom. The wings represent her ability to rise above her previous limitations, to take on a broader perspective, and to guide others. It's similar to the Jungian idea of the integration of the self. Twilight becomes more whole, more capable, because she has embraced all aspects of herself, including those she once neglected. Twilight's growth is not linear. It's full of setbacks and regressions, which makes her journey all the more compelling. She constantly faces her own insecurities, particularly her fear of failure. This fear drives her to push herself to extremes, often at the cost of her own well-being. For example, during the events of the Crystal Empire, Twilight is so focused on passing Celestia's test that she nearly forgets that her role is not just to succeed, but to protect others. This is a recurring theme. Twilight must learn that her worth is not solely defined by her achievements, but by her ability to connect, to lead, and to inspire. Her journey is also about learning to balance different aspects of her personality. She starts as an embodiment of the Apollonian archetype, focused on logic, structure, and order. But through her friendships, she learns to embrace the Dionysian elements of life, the spontaneity, the joy, and the chaos that come with deep emotional connections. Pinkie Pie, in particular, challenges Twilight to loosen up, to see the value in laughter and unpredictability. It's this balance between order and chaos, between the Apollonian and Dionysian, that allows Twilight to grow into a well-rounded leader. Twilight's relationship with her friends is crucial to her development. Each of the main six represents a different virtue that Twilight must learn to integrate. Applejack teaches her honesty, not just with others, but with herself. Rainbow Dash challenges her to be brave, not just in the face of external threats, but in confronting her own fears. Fluttershy shows her the power of gentleness and empathy, Rarity the importance of generosity, and Pinkie Pie the necessity of joy. Through these relationships, Twilight learns that true strength comes not from individual prowess, but from the collective power of a community working together. By the end of the series, Twilight has transformed from a solitary scholar into a princess who embodies the values of friendship and leadership. She takes on the mantle from Celestia and Luna, symbolizing the passing of wisdom and responsibility from one generation to the next. This final transformation is significant. It shows that Twilight has not only mastered her own abilities, but is now ready to guide others on their journeys. She becomes a mentor, much like Celestia was to her, completing the cycle of the hero's journey. In doing so, Twilight embodies the idea that the purpose of individual growth is ultimately to serve and uplift the community. Twilight's journey is a powerful reminder that growth is an ongoing process. It's about facing challenges, confronting one's own limitations, and continuously striving to become better, not just for oneself, but for the sake of others. It's about the integration of knowledge, empathy, and responsibility, and the realization that true fulfillment comes not from isolation, but from meaningful connections and the courage to take on the burdens of leadership. Twilight Sparkle's story is, in essence, a modern myth that speaks to the timeless truth that the path to wholeness is paved with challenges, sacrifices, and ultimately, the willingness to embrace all aspects of oneself in service of a greater good. When we talk about Jungian archetypes, My Little Pony is really quite fascinating. You see, each member of the main six embodies a particular archetypal pattern, and each brings unique strengths and weaknesses that reflect fundamental aspects of the human psyche. And it's not simple. It's not simplistic. It's quite profound, actually. Let's delve deeper into each of them. Twilight Sparkle, well, she represents the wise scholar, the seeker of knowledge, the one who strives for understanding and truth. Her strengths lie in her intelligence, her dedication to learning, and her methodical approach to problem solving. She's deeply curious, always looking for ways to expand her knowledge and improve herself. But, her intellectual pursuits often lead her to become isolated, disconnected from the emotional and social aspects of life. That's her weakness. She over-relies on logic and structure, and that makes her, inflexible and anxious when things don't go according to plan. And that's the thing. Throughout the series, she learns, repeatedly, that true wisdom is not just about accumulating knowledge, but also about understanding and connecting with others. Her journey, really, is about integrating the intellectual with the emotional, about using her knowledge to uplift her friends and the community. Now, Applejack, she's the embodiment of the everyman, grounded, honest, and hard-working. She represents stability, integrity, and the value of putting in the effort to get things done. Applejack's strength is her unwavering sense of honesty, her commitment to her family, to her community. She's dependable, always ready to lend a helping hoof, and her straightforward nature makes her a source of truth and reliability. But here's the catch. Her grounded nature can also make her stubborn, resistant to change. She struggles with accepting help from others, often believing that she must bear the burden alone. Applejack's journey, then, is about recognizing that true strength sometimes means being vulnerable, allowing others to assist, and understanding that, well, collaboration can lead to greater outcomes. It's not weakness to accept help, it's strength. Rainbow Dash. Now, she's the hero archetype, constantly striving for excellence, always pushing herself to be the best. She embodies courage, ambition, and this relentless desire for greatness. Her strengths lie in her bravery, her competitive spirit, and her loyalty to her friends. She's always ready to face danger head on, and her confidence, well, it inspires those around her. But her drive for recognition, her fear of failure, can make her reckless. It can make her insensitive at times to the needs of others. You see, she has to learn. Being a hero isn't just about glory. It's about selflessness, about sacrifice. Rainbow Dash's journey is about balancing her ambition with humility, understanding that true heroism is about lifting others up, being there for her friends, even when it means putting her own desires aside. And then we have Fluttershy, the caretaker. She brings compassion, empathy, and this nurturing energy to the group. She represents the gentle, kind aspect of the psyche, the part that seeks to heal and protect. Fluttershy's greatest strength is her ability to connect with others, particularly those who are vulnerable or misunderstood. Her kindness allows her to see the good in everyone, even in the most fearsome creatures. But you see, her gentleness often comes with a lack of assertiveness. She struggles with standing up for herself. Her journey is about finding the courage to be strong without losing her kindness. True compassion sometimes requires firmness. It requires standing up for oneself, for others, learning that strength and kindness are not mutually exclusive, but in fact, deeply connected. Rarity now, she embodies the creator archetype, the artistic, aesthetic sensibility that strives for beauty and elegance. She's driven by this desire to create, to bring something beautiful into the world, and her generosity is evident in her willingness to use her talents to help her friends. Rarity's strength is in her creativity, her eye for detail, her ability to make others feel special. But her focus on aesthetics, her desire for admiration, can sometimes make her appear vain, self-centered even. Rarity's journey is about balancing her love of beauty with deeper values, generosity and authenticity. She learns that true beauty, real beauty, comes not from external appearances but from acts of kindness, from the connections she builds with others. It's a deeper kind of creation. And Pinkie Pie? Pinkie Pie is the trickster. She's the embodiment of joy, spontaneity, unpredictability. She represents the importance of laughter, play, and not taking things too seriously. Pinkie's strength is her ability to bring happiness to others, to lift spirits, to remind her friends of the lightness of being. Her energy, her enthusiasm, they're infectious. But her disregard for structure, her overwhelming desire to make others happy, can sometimes lead to chaos. She struggles with understanding when her antics might be inappropriate, might even be hurtful. Pinkie Pie's journey is about learning that while joy is essential, it must be balanced with responsibility, with sensitivity to others' feelings. She teaches us, really, that life isn't meant to be taken too seriously, but that true joy comes from considering the well-being of those around us. What's important to understand here, what's really crucial, is that these archetypes are all facets of a single psyche. Taken together, they make for a balanced, whole individual. Twilight's intellect, Applejack's integrity, Rainbow Dash's courage, Fluttershy's compassion, Rarity's creativity, and Pinkie Pie's joy each represents an aspect of what it means to be human, or in this case, a well-rounded pony. It's when these elements come together that real harmony is achieved, both in society and within oneself. The main six, as a group, represent a kind of model for integrating different aspects of the self. It's about recognizing that no single quality is sufficient on its own. True wholeness comes from the balance, from the interplay of all these elements, each contributing its strengths to create something greater than the sum of its parts. And that's what makes it truly magical. Celestia and Luna represent two sides of an archetypal figure, the Great Mother, and, well, the archetypal father as well, in certain respects. Now, it's a bit complex because Celestia embodies qualities that we often associate with both the maternal and the paternal. Celestia is the benevolent, guiding light, nurturing, yes, like a maternal figure, always providing wisdom, offering a path forward. But she also embodies order, discipline, and stability, which are more traditionally seen as paternal qualities. She represents the archetype of the wise ruler, leading with grace, patience, and foresight. Her wisdom is that of someone who has seen many generations come and go, someone who understands the importance of both stability and change. She is fundamentally a beacon of hope and direction, providing that sense of security and clarity that is crucial for any thriving society. Luna, on the other hand, is also interesting because she embodies the darker, more mysterious aspects of the Great Mother, representing the night, dreams, and the shadow. But she also embodies qualities often associated with the masculine: courage, the willingness to face the unknown, the confrontational spirit. She is the guardian of the night, the one who watches over the dreams of others, and her role is deeply symbolic of the need to confront and integrate the shadow. Luna represents the introspective, reflective aspect of the psyche. She's the part of us that must face the unknown, the fears, and the parts of ourselves that we might prefer to ignore. Her transformation into Nightmare Moon and her subsequent redemption is a story of courage, discipline, and the struggle to accept these darker parts of ourselves and bring them into balance. The duality between Celestia and Luna is a powerful metaphor for the balance between order and chaos, light and shadow, conscious and unconscious. Celestia represents daylight, the conscious mind, the things we know, the things we can control, the stability of order. It's the side of us that builds, that plans, that seeks to bring structure. Luna, meanwhile, represents the night, the unconscious, the things that lie beneath the surface, the things that are harder to grasp but are equally essential. Their interplay is about the necessity of both forces, order and mystery. Celestia brings safety, the known, and Luna brings the dangerous, the potential for growth. And that's the point, really. You can't have wholeness without both. True wholeness requires both the comfort of the known and the transformative, sometimes frightening power of the unknown. These figures guide Twilight and the other ponies, serving as mentors, but also as representations of what it means to master both the known and the unknown aspects of existence. Celestia is a constant source of guidance for Twilight, providing her with challenges that push her to grow but always offering support. She embodies the role of the wise mentor, much like the archetypal sage who provides the hero with the tools and knowledge they need to succeed. She's nurturing, yes, but also demanding. She represents the benevolent but firm order that encourages growth. Luna, meanwhile, mentors the ponies in a different way. She helps them navigate their fears, their dreams, and the aspects of themselves that they might struggle to understand. Luna's guidance is less about direct instruction and more about facing the inner darkness, understanding that real growth often comes from confronting what lies in the shadows. It's about courage, about facing what is within. Together, Celestia and Luna represent the necessity of balance in leadership and in personal growth. They show that to lead others, and indeed, to lead oneself, requires both the nurturing light of understanding and the courage to face the unknown. It is through their combined influence that Twilight and the other ponies learn to navigate both the challenges of the external world and the complexities of their inner lives. Celestia and Luna's dynamic is not just about ruling a kingdom. It's about the ongoing process of integrating all aspects of the self, achieving a harmony that allows for true growth and transformation. The interplay between the nurturing order of Celestia and the challenging chaos of Luna is what creates the space for real, meaningful development, both as individuals and as a society. And that's where the real magic lies. Now, Luna's story is an incredibly profound depiction of shadow integration. At first, she is Nightmare Moon, a classic shadow manifestation. She embodies jealousy, isolation, the resentment that festers when one's talents and contributions feel underappreciated. And you see, her transformation into Nightmare Moon is essentially Luna falling prey to her own shadow. It's her giving in to those darker impulses. It's a cautionary tale that echoes Jung's warning about the dangers of repressing darker elements of our psyche. When we fail to acknowledge those parts of ourselves, well, they can consume us. They can grow until they overwhelm the persona we present to the world. Luna's journey to redemption, orchestrated by the main six, is not just a simple act of being saved. It's about re-establishing balance. It's about bringing her shadow side into the light, about integration, about facing those darker parts of herself and transforming them. And it's crucial to note, it doesn't happen all at once. The process is not instantaneous. She has to earn forgiveness, not only from others, but also from herself. And that's a very difficult thing to do, isn't it? Because forgiveness, in the Jungian sense, isn't about pretending those flaws never existed. It's not about forgetting or sweeping things under the rug. It's about reconciling them, understanding them, and then moving forward. It's a kind of symbolic death and rebirth of the self. Luna's redemption is also about humility, recognizing the damage she caused and striving to make amends. And that's something we all face in our lives. We all have aspects of ourselves that we wish we could ignore. Those feelings of envy, of resentment, that feeling of being slighted when others don't recognize our contributions. Luna's story is about what happens when we let those feelings grow unchecked, when we let them fester in the dark. But her redemption is about the courage to confront those feelings, to bring them into the light, to accept responsibility for them, and to move forward in a way that's constructive rather than destructive. And after her return, she doesn't just magically become who she once was. She has to earn that forgiveness. And it's an ongoing process. She has to work to regain the trust of her sister, of the ponies she once terrorized. And more importantly, she has to forgive herself, which is often the hardest part. You see, true forgiveness requires a kind of death of the old self, the part of oneself that allowed the resentment and envy to take hold. It requires a rebirth, a recommitment to a new way of being. And that's why Luna's story is so compelling, because it's not just about the external acts of redemption. It's about the internal transformation that has to occur for true healing to take place. Luna's journey also symbolizes the balance between light and dark that we all need to find within ourselves. She and Celestia are two sides of the same coin. Celestia represents the light, the order, the conscious striving for what is good. Luna, on the other hand, represents the night, the unconscious, the chaos that lurks within all of us. The redemption of Luna is the integration of that darkness. It's the acceptance that those elements exist, and instead of trying to suppress them, we bring them into harmony with the rest of our being. That's what Jung would call individuation, the process of becoming a whole, integrated person. The act of forgiveness here is layered. It's not just Celestia forgiving Luna, it's Luna forgiving herself, and it's society allowing her back in, giving her the space to be redeemed. And it's crucial that this forgiveness is earned through action, through change. It's not a passive acceptance, but an active reconciliation, a daily commitment to doing better, to being better. And in that sense, Luna's story speaks to all of us. It's a reminder that our darker sides are not to be ignored or denied, but to be faced, integrated, and transformed. It's a reminder that the path to forgiveness, real forgiveness, starts with the courage to look at ourselves honestly, to acknowledge our faults, and to do the work necessary to bring those parts of ourselves into the light. Now let's consider the founding of Equestria as it's portrayed in My Little Pony. It starts with this wonderful, almost mythic narrative of three distinct tribes of ponies: earth ponies, unicorns, and pegasi, all of whom had significant differences in values, talents, and contributions to society. Each of these groups embodies a different archetype or function within a community. The earth ponies represent foundational labor. They are the hands that tend to the ground, providing sustenance and stability. They are reminiscent of the salt of the earth workers who form the bedrock of any functional society, much like the farmers and laborers throughout human history who were the lifeblood of early civilizations. The pegasi bring vigilance, surveillance. Think of them as the warrior class, the protectors. They're akin to the soldiers and defenders of human societies, those who take up arms to secure safety and maintain order. The pegasi remind us of the role that order, discipline, and readiness to face threats play in maintaining the integrity of a community. They are the ones who confront danger directly, and they do so by bringing a kind of courage and capability that is necessary for any flourishing society. This is, in essence, the warrior archetype, a crucial component of any thriving civilization. And the unicorns, they're the intelligentsia, those who wield magic and conceptual understanding. They are the philosophers, the scientists, and the visionaries. They represent the intellectual and creative class, the ones who push the boundaries of what is possible through their unique insights and talents. Their magic is not just a literal force, but also a metaphor for innovation, the kind of creative and intellectual pursuit that leads societies to grow beyond mere survival. It's the archetype of the wise magician or sage, those who understand the abstract, the conceptual, and the transformative potential of ideas. Now here's where the trouble starts. Like any society divided into specialized groups, resentment inevitably begins to fester if each group isolates itself, focusing solely on its own needs and ignoring the interdependence required for survival. This resentment, this growing bitterness, manifests physically in the form of the Wendigos, creatures that feed on hatred and division. The Wendigos are a potent archetypal symbol. Think of them as an externalized representation of internal chaos. They embody the destructive consequences of allowing negative emotions, such as envy and pride, to dominate relationships between different groups. This is a classic warning about the dangers of tribalism, the collapse into chaos when individuals or factions become entrenched in their self-centered views, unwilling to compromise or recognize the value of others. This concept resonates deeply with the works of Carl Jung and even Nietzsche's critique of human society. The Wendigos represent the shadow, the dark, negative aspects of our nature that, if left unchecked, can lead to the downfall of the collective. Tribalism, the inability to see beyond one's own immediate needs, inevitably gives rise to fragmentation and hostility. Nietzsche spoke of the will to power and how it could become dangerous when channeled solely towards domination rather than creation. Similarly, Jung emphasized that without integrating the shadow, without acknowledging our capacity for hatred and overcoming it, we risk being consumed by it. Only when the ponies overcome their prejudices and recognize their mutual need for one another do they defeat the Wendigos. And this is about more than just defeating a physical threat. It's about a profound psychological transformation. It's about the emergence of a higher order unity, what Jung might call the process of individuation, but on a societal level. Individuation, in the Jungian sense, is about integrating all parts of the self to achieve wholeness. For Equestria, it's about integrating the strengths of each tribe, the grounded reliability of the earth ponies, the courage and vigilance of the pegasi, and the intellectual magic of the unicorns to create a harmonious whole. This higher-order unification is not forced conformity. It's an organic integration of unique talents and values into a cohesive, functioning society. The lesson here is timeless. True unity arises not from imposing sameness, but from recognizing and valuing differences, and then integrating those differences in a way that serves the greater good. It's the archetypal journey from chaos to order, where chaos is the division and hostility represented by the Wendigos, and order is the harmonious, flourishing society that emerges when the ponies finally join together. This theme is as old as civilization itself. We see it in the formation of early human societies where disparate tribes had to come together, often under great pressure, to form cohesive communities. We see it in religious stories. The Tower of Babel, for instance, tells of the dangers of division and the importance of unity and purpose. And we see it in our own psychological development, where integrating conflicting aspects of ourselves is necessary to achieve a sense of purpose and well-being. The founding of Equestria is, therefore, more than just a charming children's story. It's a mythological narrative that speaks to the very heart of the human condition. It tells us that only by overcoming our petty divisions, by recognizing that the things that separate us are far less significant than the dangers that threaten us all, can we hope to build something lasting and meaningful. It's a call to transcend the self, to find a place within the broader community, and to realize that our survival, indeed our flourishing, depends on our capacity to work together in spite of our differences. And that, well, that's a message as relevant today as it has ever been, echoing through the ages in every story of unity triumphing over division. Discord, what a character! Discord is the archetypal trickster, but taken to a cosmic level. He's a literal embodiment of chaos, of what happens when all structure and order disintegrate. He is the primordial dragon, the force that represents unrestrained freedom, the capacity for creativity, but also for destruction. In early mythology, dragons are often symbols of chaos, beings that need to be either integrated or conquered to bring order to the world. They represent everything that is unpredictable, everything that is dangerous, but also everything that has potential. You see, chaos isn't just something to fear. It's something that, when properly harnessed, can give rise to new life, to new possibilities. Now, Discord, he's not just your ordinary trickster, no. He's chaos on a cosmic scale. When he first appears, he throws everything into disarray, turns order into disorder, and he does it with such gleeful abandon. And it's not just random destruction for the sake of destruction. There's something deeper happening there. He embodies what happens when the chaotic element within us is unleashed without any kind of balancing force, without any structure to give it meaning. He turns the world upside down, literally, and that's the risk of chaos. If it's left unchecked, if there's no order to channel it, it can be purely destructive. But here's the thing. Within that chaos, there's also the seed of creativity, the seed of transformation. It's the fertile ground from which new ideas, new forms, and new life can emerge. Discord's reformation, his transformation from a being of pure, unrestrained chaos into someone who can coexist within an ordered society, is profoundly meaningful. It speaks to the necessity of integrating chaos into our lives, of finding a way to allow for spontaneity and unpredictability without letting them spiral into complete disorder. Because without chaos, without that creative, spontaneous energy, society becomes rigid. It becomes stagnant. Too much order leads to tyranny, to an unyielding rigidity where nothing grows. But chaos on its own, it's equally dangerous. It's anarchy. It's destruction for the sake of destruction. What we need is balance, always balance, between the known and the unknown, between structure and freedom, between order and chaos. And Discord's journey is all about that, finding a way to reconcile those opposing forces within himself. He doesn't lose his chaotic nature, not at all. He doesn't become predictable or mundane. Instead, he finds a way to use his chaos constructively. He learns that his chaotic nature can be a source of joy, of laughter, of that kind of playful energy that keeps things from becoming too stale, too static. And that's a crucial lesson for all of us, really. It's about recognizing that the parts of ourselves that might seem unruly, that might seem too wild or out of control, can actually be our greatest strengths if we learn how to channel them properly, if we learn how to give them direction. Now, Fluttershy's role in all of this, her friendship with Discord, is absolutely key. She's the stabilizing force, the order that allows Discord to change. But it's not about taming him, not in the sense of suppressing who he is. It's about accepting him, understanding him, and giving him a space where his chaos is valued, where it's meaningful. And that's what we all need, isn't it? We need a place where even our most chaotic aspects are seen, are understood, and are given a role, a purpose. Fluttershy doesn't demand that Discord stop being who he is. She simply provides the context in which he can be himself without being destructive. She provides the container, the structure, that allows his chaos to be transformed into something positive. Discord's reformation is a mirror of what we all have to do. We all have those parts of ourselves that are chaotic, that are unruly, that might even be dangerous if left unchecked. The task isn't to suppress them, isn't to push them away into the shadows, where they can fester and grow unchecked. The task is to bring them into the light, to integrate them, to find a way to use that energy constructively. Discord's journey from villain to ally is exactly that. It's the transformation of raw, untamed chaos into something that contributes, something that builds rather than destroys. It's about finding the play in life, the creativity, the spark of the unexpected that keeps things alive, that keeps them from becoming too rigid, too controlled. And that really is why Discord is such an important character. He represents the chaos that lies at the heart of everything, the chaos that has to be integrated if we're to live full, meaningful lives. His reformation doesn't mean he stops being chaotic. It means he finds a way to be both chaotic and meaningful. And that's a journey we're all on, whether we realize it or not. It's the process of finding where our chaos fits into the order of our lives, finding how it can serve us rather than undermine us. It's about using that energy not to tear down, but to build up, to create something new, something vibrant, something alive. It's about dancing on that fine edge between order and chaos, where true vitality lies, where true creativity happens. Spike is, in many ways, the loyal companion, but he's also much more than that. He's the underdog, a dragon raised by ponies, often feeling like he doesn't quite fit in. Spike's story is about self-worth, about the constant struggle to prove oneself in the face of overwhelming odds and in an environment that often doesn't recognize his contributions. And, that's something that's deeply relatable, isn't it? That feeling of being on the outside, of not quite fitting in, of trying to prove that you have value when the world seems indifferent. It's a struggle that resonates with all of us at some point. Throughout the series, we see Spike strive to understand his own identity. He wrestles with the question of what it means to be a dragon and how that fits into pony society. He's torn between two worlds. He's not quite like the other dragons, and yet he's not a pony either. This is the classic outsider archetype, struggling between two worlds, looking for a place to belong. It's an important narrative because it tells us that identity isn't something that's just handed to you. You have to forge it, often through adversity, through trial and error, through moments of doubt and perseverance. And that's what makes Spike's journey so compelling. Now, Spike's relationship with Twilight is particularly fascinating. He's her assistant, yes, but he's also like a younger brother to her. There's this deep bond between them, a kind of familial love, but it's complicated by their roles. Twilight is, in many ways, a mentor, an authority figure, and that dynamic can sometimes overshadow Spike's own sense of independence. He wants to be seen as capable, as someone who can stand on his own, and yet he's often treated as, the little helper. And that's not to say that Twilight doesn't care deeply for him. She absolutely does. But it's a complex relationship, and it mirrors that struggle many of us have when we're trying to step out of someone else's shadow, when we're trying to prove that we can be more than just an assistant, more than just a follower. Spike's encounters with other dragons are also pivotal moments in his story. You see, those moments force him to confront what it means to be a dragon. The other dragons represent a kind of brute strength, a kind of dominance that Spike doesn't naturally embody. They challenge him. They push him to question whether he's really a real dragon. And Spike in those moments has to decide, does he try to be like them, to fit into their mold, or does he forge his own path? And what he ultimately chooses is to be true to himself. He chooses kindness. He chooses loyalty. He chooses to define what it means to be a dragon on his own terms. And that's powerful, because it's about rejecting the pressure to conform to an identity that doesn't fit you. It's about saying, this is who I am, and that's enough. Spike often finds himself feeling inadequate. He's smaller. He's not as strong. He doesn't have the magic that the ponies do. But what he lacks in physical power, he makes up for in heart. He's brave, he's loyal, and he's always willing to do whatever it takes to help his friends. And that's where his true strength lies. It's not in being the biggest or the strongest. It's in his character, in his willingness to be there for others even when it's difficult, even when he feels outmatched. Spike's journey is a reminder that heroism isn't about being the strongest. It's about having the courage to face your own insecurities, to keep going even when you feel small. And let's talk a bit more about his role within the group. Spike is often in the background, often overlooked, but he's indispensable. He's the one who provides support, who keeps things running smoothly, who's always there when he's needed. And that, in itself, is a form of greatness. It's easy to overlook the value of those who work behind the scenes, those who don't seek the spotlight but whose contributions are vital. Spike teaches us that you don't need to be in the forefront to make a difference. You can be the one who supports, who encourages, who holds everything together. And that's just as important, just as meaningful. The bond between Spike and Twilight is also about growth on both sides. Twilight has to learn to see Spike not just as an assistant, not just as someone who helps her, but as an individual with his own desires, his own strengths, his own struggles. And Spike, for his part, has to learn to assert himself, to recognize his own worth, even when it's not being explicitly acknowledged by those around him. Their relationship evolves, and it's a testament to the idea that even the closest of bonds require work, require understanding, and require the willingness to see each other fully. Spike's story is ultimately about resilience. It's about not giving up even when you feel small, even when you feel like you don't quite belong. It's about recognizing that your worth isn't determined by how others see you, but by how you see yourself, by the choices you make, by the courage you show in being true to who you are. And that, well, that's a lesson we all need, isn't it? To understand that we don't have to fit into someone else's mold to be valuable, that we can define our own identity, even if it means standing apart, even if it means forging our own path in the face of uncertainty. The Cutie Mark Crusaders are all about the individuation process. You see, they represent the search for purpose, which is deeply Jungian in its essence. Their quest for cutie marks isn't just about discovering their talents. It's about understanding who they are at their core, their unique essence. It's about that deep yearning to find a place in the world, to discover something that makes life meaningful. And that's not something that comes easily. It's something that has to be earned through struggle, through mistakes, and through the courage to keep going, even when you don't know what the outcome will be. This struggle, the setbacks, and the small triumphs along the way are metaphors for the adolescent struggle of identity formation. It's not a straight line. There are twists and turns, moments of hope, followed by disappointment, and times when they feel utterly lost. The Crusaders' journey reflects that process beautifully, showing that growth isn't linear, and finding out who you are takes time, effort, and resilience. They experience frustration, jealousy, and even moments of hopelessness when they watch others succeed in finding their purpose while they continue to search. And yet, they don't give up. They keep experimenting. They keep trying different things, and that perseverance is key. The Crusaders also show us that identity isn't something isolated. It's something that emerges in the context of relationships, experiences, and community. Their friendship is a fundamental part of their journey. They rely on each other for support, they challenge each other, and they celebrate each other's successes. It's through these interactions that they begin to understand themselves better. Their quest isn't just about individual achievement. It's about growing together, learning from each other, and understanding that their paths are intertwined. The bonds they share give them strength, and it's through those connections that they eventually discover their true calling. When they finally earn their marks, it's not just a moment of celebration, it's the culmination of their inner journey towards self-realization. Their cutie marks represent not just a talent, but a deeper understanding of their purpose. What's really remarkable is that their marks are about helping others find their own purpose. It's a realization that their true calling is about guiding others, about using their experiences, their struggles, to help others through similar journeys. This speaks to a profound truth about purpose. It's not just about personal fulfillment. It's about contributing to something greater than oneself. Finding their cutie marks transforms them. Before, they were searching, restless, uncertain. Afterward, there's a sense of peace, of confidence. They have direction, they have meaning, and that changes everything. But, and this is important, it doesn't mean their journey is over. In many ways, it's just the beginning. Finding purpose isn't an endpoint. It's the starting point for a new chapter. They now have a role within their community, a sense of responsibility, and a mission that gives their lives deeper meaning. They become mentors, they become guides, and in doing so, they continue to grow. The Cutie Mark Crusaders story is ultimately about the power of perseverance, the importance of friendship, and the understanding that true fulfillment comes not just from discovering who you are, but from using that knowledge to make a difference in the lives of others. It's about realizing that your unique essence is most powerful when it's used in the service of others, when it helps others find their way. And that, well, that's what gives life its richness, its depth, that sense of purpose that connects you to others and to something bigger than yourself. Shining armor and cadence represent a kind of idealized union between the masculine and feminine forces. Shining armor, as his name suggests, is the protector, the guardian, a representation of the order-providing aspect of masculinity. He embodies strength, courage, and the willingness to stand firm in the face of danger. He's the one who creates a space of safety, who builds a fortress, both literally and metaphorically, around those he loves. It's the archetypal masculine role of providing order, stability, and the courage to confront chaos. Cadence, on the other hand, embodies the nurturing feminine, and her magic is literally the power of love. She's the caregiver, the one who brings warmth, empathy, and connection. Her magic isn't just about love in the abstract sense, it's about creating bonds, fostering harmony, and bringing people together. And, you know, that's an active force, not a passive one. It's transformative. It's about understanding, about compassion, and about the power of love to change situations, to heal wounds, to build bridges where there were none before. Their relationship is symbolic of the balance between these forces, which need to work together to create harmony. You see, without the protective strength of shining armor, Cadence's nurturing love would be vulnerable. It would be left exposed to those who might exploit it. And without Cadence's love, shining armor's protective nature could become rigid, even authoritarian. It's the combination of these forces, the strength of protection and the warmth of love, that allows for true resilience. It's a dance between order and nurturing, between creating boundaries and filling those spaces with compassion. It's also through their union that we see Equestria withstand threats, like that from Queen Chrysalis, who embodies a corrupted version of love, one that seeks to control and consume rather than nurture and grow. Chrysalis's approach to love is parasitic. She feeds off it, manipulates it, twists it into something that serves her own needs. She represents the shadow side of connection, the kind that is self-serving, that drains rather than builds. In contrast, the love between Shining Armor and Cadence is reciprocal. It's about giving and receiving, about creating a bond that strengthens both of them and, by extension, those around them. The dynamic between Shining Armor and Cadence also speaks to the importance of partnership. It's not about one force dominating the other. It's about balance, about understanding that both the protective and nurturing roles are essential for the well-being of the community. Shining Armor's bravery is complemented by Cadence's compassion, and together they create something greater than either could alone. It's a reminder that true strength isn't about standing alone. It's about standing together, about supporting each other in a way that allows both to bring their best selves forward. Their relationship shows us that the masculine and feminine, when working in harmony, create a foundation that is both strong and compassionate. It's the kind of balance that allows for both security and growth, both stability and transformation. And that really is the ideal, finding that balance within ourselves and in our relationships, where we can be both strong and nurturing, both courageous and compassionate. It's about recognizing that these forces are not in opposition, but are complementary, and that true harmony comes from integrating them in a way that allows us to face the challenges of life with both resilience and love. And let's not forget the importance of their roles as leaders. Shining Armor and Cadence are not just partners to each other, they are rulers, responsible for the Crystal Empire and its people. Their relationship models the kind of leadership that's needed to create a flourishing society. It's leadership that's both protective and nurturing, that understands the need for boundaries and the importance of caring for those within them. Their union is what allows them to face threats like Chrysalis, to overcome adversity, and to build a kingdom that thrives. It's about more than just romantic love. It's about the kind of love that builds communities, that fosters loyalty and trust, that creates a space where everyone can grow. And that, well, that's something we all need to strive for, isn't it? To bring together the best parts of ourselves, to support those we care about, and to build something that lasts. Chrysalis and the Changelings are fascinating because they embody the shadow side of love. Their need to feed off love, to deceive others to obtain what they need, is a perversion of emotional connection. Chrysalis, as the leader, represents narcissism taken to its extreme. Her manipulation is a means to satisfy her own craving for validation and power. She doesn't give love, she takes it, and that's the crucial distinction. Her love is entirely self-serving, entirely about what she can extract from others, and there's nothing genuine in it. It's about control, about using others as tools to fulfill her own needs, without any regard for their well-being. The Changelings, as a collective, represent the destructive nature of inauthentic relationships. They thrive on deceit and emotional manipulation, pretending to be what they are not in order to gain love from others. Before their transformation, the Changelings are a hive of dependency, emphasizing the dangers of relying on manipulation and deceit to fulfill emotional needs. They are constantly seeking love, but in the wrong way, through deceit and coercion rather than genuine connection. This reflects a deep insecurity, a sense that who they are isn't enough, that they must mask their true selves to be loved. The Changelings are also a powerful representation of the emptiness that comes from trying to extract value from others without giving anything in return. Their existence is one of scarcity, always hungry, always needing more, because the love they consume is never truly fulfilling. It's hollow, it's fleeting, because it's built on lies. And this is what makes them such a poignant symbol of narcissistic relationships, those that are based not on mutual growth and support, but on one party draining the life out of the other. It's a warning about the consequences of relationships that lack authenticity, where one seeks to control and consume rather than nurture and grow. King Sombra is an archetypal tyrant. His reign over the Crystal Empire is one built on fear and domination, control for the sake of control. Unlike other villains in the series, Sombra has little redeeming complexity. He's pure authoritarian power, representing what happens when tyranny replaces any semblance of empathy or care for the people. He's a manifestation of unchecked power, of what happens when the desire to dominate becomes all-consuming, when the pursuit of control becomes the only goal. Sombra doesn't just want to rule, he wants to subjugate, to crush any sense of hope or resistance, to ensure that those under his rule are utterly obedient, not out of respect or loyalty, but out of fear. The story of King Sombra is a warning, a cautionary tale about the consequences of allowing power to become centralized and unchecked. It shows us that when leaders become obsessed with control, with maintaining their dominance at all costs, they ultimately destroy the very people and society they claim to protect. Sombra's rule is marked by a lack of empathy, a complete disregard for the well-being of others, and it serves as a reminder of the importance of balance in leadership. Power, without compassion or responsibility, becomes corrupt, becomes destructive. Sombra's presence in the story, then, serves as a powerful contrast to the values of friendship, empathy, and cooperation that are central to the series. He is what happens when power is pursued without regard for others, when the desire to control becomes an end in itself. His character forces us to confront the darker aspects of leadership, the potential for abuse when authority is unchecked, and it ultimately reaffirms the importance of compassion, community, and the strength that comes from standing together against oppression. Tyrek is another manifestation of unchecked power, but unlike Sombra, he isn't simply a tyrant. He's driven by a deep need to consume, to take for himself until nothing remains. Tyrek represents the corrupting force of power in its rawest, most elemental form. He's the embodiment of hunger, of that insatiable desire that can never be truly satisfied. It's not enough for him to have power. He wants it all. He wants to drain others, to leave them powerless, so that he alone stands supreme. And that's the essence of what power becomes when it's corrupted by ego, when it's unchecked by any moral constraint. It's about destruction rather than creation. Tyrek reminds us that the pursuit of power, without any form of ethical restraint or concern for others, is ultimately self-destructive. One of the most significant moments involving Tyrek is how he manages to tempt discord, drawing him away from the path of friendship and loyalty. You see, discord is inherently chaotic, but he's been learning to temper that chaos, to use it in constructive ways, to be part of something greater than himself. Tyrek offers discord something that taps into his core vulnerability, the allure of having no restrictions on his nature. It's the promise of ultimate freedom, of indulging in his own nature without restraint. This is where Tyrek's true danger lies, not just in his raw strength, but in his ability to manipulate, to corrupt, to bring out the darkest tendencies in others. The battle between Twilight and Tyrek also serves as a visual representation of the dangers inherent in attempting to match force with force. It's a clash of titans, and the sheer destruction that ensues shows us just how futile that kind of confrontation can be. Twilight, despite her immense power, realizes that sheer strength alone isn't enough to defeat Tyrek. It's only when she relies on the strength of her friends and the elements of harmony that true victory is possible. The message here is clear. Power used solely for its own sake leads to devastation. True power, the kind that builds rather than destroys, comes from unity, from cooperation, from standing together rather than apart. And then there's the moment of sacrifice. Twilight and her friends choose to take Discord back, despite his betrayal. They choose to forgive, to extend a hand of friendship once more, even though Discord's actions have put them all in grave danger. And that's where true power lies, not in the ability to dominate or destroy, but in the willingness to forgive, to rebuild, to extend trust, even when it's been broken. Tyrek's defeat is not just about overpowering him. It's about the power of sacrifice, the strength of friendship, and the courage to stand together, even when it means risking everything. It's about showing that there is a different way, a way that values connection over control, compassion over domination. Starlight Glimmer's arc is one of the most psychologically nuanced in the series. Her initial desire to create a society where all ponies are equal stems from a fear of losing control, rooted in her personal trauma of losing a friend. And you see, that's often where these kinds of utopian ideas come from. Fear, insecurity, the desire to impose order on something that feels chaotic and out of control. Starlight wants to create a world where no one can ever feel the kind of pain she felt, where no one is left behind. But in her quest to do that, she ends up stripping away what makes each individual unique. It's the dark side of utopianism, the belief that in order to create a perfect society, you have to erase individuality, erase difference, erase anything that doesn't fit into the ideal vision. Starlight's vision of equality, stripped of individuality, is essentially a utopian nightmare, a warning about the dangers of ideological extremism. It's about what happens when the pursuit of an ideal becomes more important than the well-being of the individuals within that society. She forces conformity, believing that sameness will lead to harmony, but in doing so, she robs others of their agency, of their right to be themselves. It's a classic case of good intentions leading to harmful outcomes, and it's a reminder that the road to tyranny is often paved with the desire to do good, with the belief that one knows what's best for everyone else. Starlight's redemption is just as significant. It's not an immediate shift, but a gradual process of learning to trust others, to understand that differences in talent are not sources of inequality to be stamped out, but are part of what makes community worthwhile. Her journey is about letting go of control, about understanding that true equality doesn't mean everyone is the same. It means everyone is valued for who they are, with all their strengths and weaknesses. It's about recognizing that the world is messy, that people are different, and that's okay. In fact, that's what makes life rich, what makes community vibrant. Her arc illustrates the idea that true change requires humility and the courage to confront one's past mistakes. Starlight has to face the harm she's caused. She has to acknowledge that her vision, however well-intentioned, was flawed, and that's not easy. It takes a lot of courage to admit you were wrong, to let go of the ideology that gave you a sense of control, a sense of certainty. But that's what real growth looks like. It's messy, it's uncomfortable, it requires you to confront parts of yourself that you'd rather ignore. Starlight's journey is about learning to embrace uncertainty, to find strength in vulnerability, and to understand that true harmony comes not from forcing everyone to be the same, but from embracing and celebrating differences. Her story also speaks to the seductive nature of power. When she first loses her friend, Starlight feels powerless, and her response is to seek control, to create a system where no one can ever leave her again. It's a coping mechanism, a way to protect herself from being hurt, but in doing so, she ends up hurting others. Her redemption is about learning to let go of that need for control, to trust that others will stay. The transformation of the changelings from deceptive, parasitic creatures to colorful, authentic beings is a clear symbol of personal growth and redemption. It's about shedding an old skin, about letting go of patterns of behavior that are destructive, both to oneself and to others. The changelings, before their transformation, live in a constant state of hunger, of need. They feed off love, but they can never truly be satisfied, because what they're taking isn't real. It's not given freely, it's not genuine. And that, right there, is the essence of their struggle. It's a reminder that true fulfillment, true connection, can't be taken by force. It has to be earned. It has to be reciprocal. Thorax, who leads the way, embodies the courage needed to abandon old habits, even when it means defying one's nature and social group. He's an outlier, a changeling who dares to believe that there's a different way to live, a better way. And that takes immense bravery, doesn't it? To stand apart from your own kind, to say, this isn't right, there has to be another way. Thorax shows us that real transformation begins with the willingness to question, to challenge the status quo, even when it means stepping into the unknown. It's about having the courage to be vulnerable, to reach out, to trust that there is something better out there. The changeling's redemption shows that even the most deeply flawed individuals can change, provided they find a way to contribute to the community in a positive way. Their transformation is a triumph of authenticity over manipulation, a turning away from the idea that love is something that can be stolen, and toward the understanding that love is something that has to be shared, something that grows when it's given freely. It's a reminder that beneath fear and hatred, there often lies a desire to belong, to be valued genuinely, to be seen for who you truly are. When the changelings finally transform, when they choose to share love instead of stealing it, it represents a profound shift. It's about moving from a mindset of scarcity to one of abundance. They learn that by giving love, by being authentic and open, they can actually fulfill their needs in a way that is lasting and meaningful. And that's a powerful message, isn't it? It's about understanding that true happiness doesn't come from taking, it comes from giving, from being part of a community, from building something together. The changeling's transformation is visually striking. They become colorful, vibrant, a reflection of the internal change that has taken place. It's about becoming whole, about embracing who they are without fear, without the need to hide. The redemption of the changelings also speaks to the idea that change is always possible, no matter how deeply entrenched negative behaviors might be. It's about hope, about the belief that even those who have gone down the wrong path can find their way back, can become something better. Thorax's journey, and the journey of the changelings as a whole, is a testament to the power of authenticity, of courage, and of the willingness to open oneself up to something new. It's a story of redemption that teaches us that no one is beyond saving, that with the right support, the right community, anyone can change, anyone can grow. And that, well, that's a message we could all stand to remember. The pillars of Equestria are, essentially, the ancient precursors of the main six. They embody traditional heroic virtues, strength, wisdom, hope, and represent the continuity of heroism across generations. They're the foundational figures, the ones who laid down the first stones of what it means to be a hero in Equestria. Their reappearance in modern Equestria is symbolic of the idea that the lessons and virtues of the past need to be brought forward, adapted, and passed down to the present. It's about continuity, about the way in which the values that built society must be upheld and reinterpreted by each new generation. The main six are not heroes in isolation. They're part of a continuum, standing on the shoulders of those who came before, and their own deeds will provide a foundation for the future. This continuity is crucial because it shows that heroism is not a solitary endeavor. It's something that connects us to the past and propels us into the future. The pillars of Equestria embody the timelessness of virtue, the idea that courage, wisdom, and hope are not bound by any one era, but are constants that must be rediscovered and reaffirmed by each generation. And then, of course, there's Stygian, the one who stood alongside the pillars before becoming the villain known as the Pony of Shadows. Stygian's story is a cautionary tale about the misunderstandings that can arise even among heroes, about the dangers of feeling undervalued or betrayed. You see, Stygian fought the pillars not because he was inherently evil, but because he felt abandoned, overshadowed by those he had once called allies. He believed he needed power to prove himself, and in his desperation, he succumbed to the darkness. This shows us that even heroes can make mistakes, mistakes that have profound consequences. The pillars, in their failure to understand Stygian's plight, allowed resentment to fester, which ultimately led to the rise of the Pony of Shadows. It's a reminder that even the best of us are fallible, that heroism requires empathy, an understanding of those who might be struggling in silence. When the pillars return, they're not simply there to solve the problems of the present. They're there to pass on their wisdom, to inspire the next generation of heroes. It's about mentorship, about understanding that the work of building a just and harmonious society is never finished. There will always be challenges, always be new threats, and it is the responsibility of each generation to rise to those challenges, drawing on the wisdom of those who came before. The relationship between the pillars and the main six is a reminder that we are never truly alone in our struggles. Our ancestors, our mentors, our heroes of the past have left us tools, lessons, and values that we can draw upon. The School of Friendship is an attempt to institutionalize the values that have been learned throughout the series. It's about taking what is known, what has been hard-won through experience, through trial and error, and ensuring it's passed on to others. The school represents a conscious effort to build a structure, a foundation, that can spread these lessons beyond just a small group of friends, extending beyond Ponyville to involve creatures from all over Equestria. It's about making these values universal, about teaching responsibility, empathy, and cooperation to creatures from different backgrounds, different species, and showing that friendship isn't limited by borders or cultures. It's an ambitious vision, an idealistic one, and that's what makes it so powerful. The importance of teaching responsibility, empathy, and cooperation is central here. These are the building blocks of a functioning society. Without them, there's no trust, no harmony, no true community. The School of Friendship is about taking the abstract ideals of friendship and turning them into teachable principles, something that can be learned, practiced, and lived. It's an acknowledgement that while the magic of friendship might seem spontaneous, it actually requires work, requires understanding, and that sometimes those things need to be explicitly taught. But it's also a lesson in the limits of institutions, how even the best intentions can go awry. Institutions are powerful, but they are also vulnerable to corruption, to being co-opted by those who see them as tools for their own gain. Cozy Glow's betrayal is a case in point. She manipulates the system, uses the trust and openness that the school represents to further her own ambitions. Cozy Glow represents the dark side of institutional power, the way that even something built for good can be twisted if those within it are not vigilant. Her storyline is a dark reminder that even the best systems need oversight, need vigilance, because there will always be those who seek to exploit them. The School of Friendship, then, is both an ideal and a challenge. It's about the hope that these lessons can be shared, that they can reach across differences and create a more harmonious world. But it's also a recognition that the work of building and maintaining institutions is never finished. There will always be those like Cozy Glow, those who see an opportunity for manipulation rather than community. The challenge is to remain vigilant, to ensure that the ideals at the heart of the institution are upheld, and to remember that the strength of an institution lies not just in its rules and structures, but in the people who embody its values. The final season brings everything full circle, emphasizing legacy and the importance of passing the torch. Twilight taking over from Celestia and Luna represents the culmination of her journey, stepping fully into responsibility, into maturity, and really into the role of a leader. This is a profound moment, not just for Twilight, but for all of Equestria. It symbolizes the inevitability of change, the way in which each generation must eventually take on the mantle of leadership, must rise to meet the challenges that lie ahead. Twilight has been preparing for this role for a long time, and yet the moment of stepping into it is still daunting. And that's real, isn't it? No matter how much we prepare, there's always fear, always uncertainty when it comes to taking on greater responsibility. This transition is not without anxiety, and that's important. It shows us that stepping into greater responsibility is always intimidating, always involves sacrifice. Twilight's journey is a reminder that growth often requires us to leave behind what is comfortable, what is known, and step into something new, something challenging. And that's what maturity is. It's about recognizing that the easy path is rarely the most fulfilling one, that true growth comes from embracing responsibility, from facing the unknown with courage. Twilight's ascension to leadership is a testament to her development, to her willingness to bear the weight of responsibility for others, to serve not just as a powerful figure, but as a guiding light for those who look up to her. The final season's theme of legacy and passing the torch also speaks to the continuity of values. The lessons that Celestia and Luna have imparted to Twilight are not lost. They live on through her actions, through her leadership. It's a reminder that the work we do, the values we embody, don't end with us. They are passed on. They are carried forward by those we teach, those we inspire. Twilight taking on the mantle is about more than just her individual growth. It's about the growth of an entire society, about the ways in which each generation builds on the foundations laid by those who came before. This is the essence of true leadership. It's about creating a legacy that outlives you, about empowering others to take what you've given them and make it their own. Twilight's journey and the decision of Celestia and Luna to step back remind us that leadership is a cycle, that each of us, in our own way, is called to contribute, to lead, and eventually to pass the torch to those who follow. And that, well, that's a beautiful thing, isn't it? It's about the continuity of growth, the never-ending journey of learning, teaching, and leading, and the understanding that each of us has a role to play in the unfolding story. Now, the show's emphasis on friendship might seem simple. But it's not. Friendship in My Little Pony isn't just about being nice. It's about responsibility. Each relationship comes with obligations, acts of sacrifice, compromise, and loyalty. This, in Jungian terms, is the transformation of the self. Twilight and her friends learn that only by assuming responsibility for one another's well-being can they maintain harmony. Friendship, in this context, is not a passive act of mere camaraderie. It's an active, deliberate choice to care for others, even at the expense of one's comfort. Each of the main six, in their own way, embodies a virtue that demands a form of responsibility. Applejack's honesty means she must sometimes speak difficult truths, even if it risks causing tension. Fluttershy's kindness requires her to face her fears to help others, pushing herself beyond what she is comfortable with. Rainbow Dash's loyalty means she must be steadfast, even when the easier option would be to walk away. Rarity's generosity often comes at a personal cost, as she gives of herself without expecting anything in return. Pinkie Pie's laughter isn't just about having fun. It's about bringing joy to others, lifting spirits when times are tough, which is, in itself, a profound responsibility. And Twilight, as the glue that holds them all together, must balance all these relationships, bearing the burden of leadership and ensuring the group functions as a cohesive whole. Friendship here serves as a binding force. It's the glue that holds society together in spite of the chaos that's always threatening at the borders. This is a powerful metaphor for the very fabric of civilization. In many ways, the show reflects the tension between order and chaos that we see in our own lives. The friendships that the main six form aren't merely comforting, they're a call to transcend personal limitations. It's the type of friendship that represents a deep ethical responsibility, a commitment to something beyond oneself. It's about the willingness to sacrifice, to compromise, to place the needs of others alongside or even above one's own. Friendship, in this sense, becomes a crucible for transformation. It's not about comfort, it's about growth. And growth, as we know, often comes with suffering. Take Fluttershy, for instance. Her journey towards becoming more assertive is fraught with discomfort. She doesn't want to step outside her comfort zone, but her friends encourage her, support her, and sometimes challenge her to do just that. And in doing so, she becomes more than she was. She becomes someone who can stand up for herself and for others. It's a reminder that real friendship isn't about enabling one another to stay the same. It's about pushing each other to grow, to face the dragons within, as it were. The concept of friendship as responsibility also speaks to a broader societal metaphor. In a functioning society, individuals must take responsibility not only for themselves, but for the people around them. This is reflected in the way the main six continuously come together to face external threats. Each of these villains represents a form of chaos that threatens to disrupt the harmony of Equestria, and it is only through the unity and commitment of the main six that these threats are overcome. This is a clear representation of the idea that a society can only flourish when its members take responsibility for maintaining the order and well-being of the collective. It echoes the ancient idea that civilization itself is a fragile construct, held together by the willingness of individuals to uphold shared values and to support one another. There's a profound ethical component to this kind of friendship. It requires the individuals involved to be truthful, to be courageous, and to be willing to confront not only external threats, but also the internal flaws that might harm the group. When Rarity is overcome by her own vanity, or when Rainbow Dash lets her pride get in the way, it's the responsibility of the others to call them out, to help them see the error of their ways. This is not done out of malice, but out of love and commitment to the well-being of the entire group. It's reminiscent of the biblical idea of iron sharpening iron. Through their interactions, the main six sharpen one another, becoming better versions of themselves. In sum, friendship in My Little Pony is a profound symbol of responsibility. It's about recognizing that our actions affect those around us, and that true connection requires a willingness to bear the weight of those relationships. It's about striving towards an ideal, one where individuals are not isolated, self-interested beings, but are instead deeply interconnected, each contributing to the well-being of the whole. This is a deeply ethical vision of friendship, one that requires courage, sacrifice, and an unwavering commitment to the greater good. And that, well, that's what makes it truly magical. The main six are a group, but they're also individuals with distinct strengths, weaknesses, and desires. And, the show's entire arc really highlights the balance between group identity and individualism. You can't have a functional community without individual contributions. And yet, if individuals only focus on their own desires without considering the group, harmony disintegrates. It's that delicate balance between being part of a collective and maintaining one's individuality that the show keeps exploring over and over again. And that balance, well, that's something societies have struggled with throughout history, right? I mean, how do you maintain a cohesive collective without trampling on the uniqueness of each person? It's no simple task. The main six, through their friendships, show how mutual respect and the acknowledgement of each other's talents is crucial to building a truly integrated society. They each bring something different to the table. Twilight's leadership, Fluttershy's compassion, Rainbow Dash's bravery. It's through embracing these differences, through seeing the value in each other's uniqueness, that they succeed. They're not just a group. They're a symphony, where every part matters, where every individual note contributes to the harmony of the whole. And that's a profound thing, isn't it? Because it tells us that a healthy society isn't about everyone being the same. It's about everyone being different, and those differences coming together to create something greater than the sum of its parts. It's about recognizing that the group needs the individual just as much as the individual needs the group. And that, well, that's something worth reflecting on deeply, because it's the key to both community and personal fulfillment. Without individualism, you get tyranny, conformity, and stagnation. But without the group, you get chaos, isolation, and despair. The show is pointing to a path forward, a way to honor both sides of that equation, to bring out the best in each other while still maintaining our own integrity and uniqueness. And that's a very important message, especially today. Forgiveness is a recurring theme, not only in Luna's redemption or Discord's reform, but across countless smaller arcs. And forgiveness, you see, is portrayed not as an easy blanket act, but as a transformational process. It's not something you just say and it's done. It's something that requires both parties to change. Forgiveness in My Little Pony is often shown as a two-way street. It requires both the recognition of one's faults and a genuine effort to change. Characters like Luna, Discord, and Starlight Glimmer go through processes of redemption, and those aren't easy. They demonstrate that past mistakes don't have to define a person forever. But redemption requires effort, accountability, and often the willingness to be vulnerable. It requires confronting the part of yourself that's caused harm. It requires taking responsibility. And you know, that's hard. That's really hard. The show teaches that while forgiveness is indeed a gift, it must be earned through action. It's about transformation. It's about becoming something better, something more aligned with what you could be. And that's never easy. It's the idea that you can be forgiven, but you have to earn it. You have to prove that you're worthy of it. Not in a way that's punitive, but in a way that allows for genuine change and growth. And you know, forgiveness isn't just about the one who has done wrong. It's also about the one doing the forgiving. It requires a kind of strength, a kind of courage, to open yourself up to someone who has hurt you, to trust again, to offer them a chance at redemption. It's not easy. It's not simple. But it's necessary if we want to build a world where people can learn and grow, where mistakes are not the end, but a step along the journey. There's no growth without suffering. It's an uncomfortable truth, but one that is deeply ingrained in My Little Pony. Every character who grows, whether it's Twilight assuming the mantle of leadership or Fluttershy learning to assert herself, does so by going through moments of pain, fear, and discomfort. And that, you know, is a fundamental aspect of the human condition. It's through suffering, through facing the things that most terrify us, that we become stronger. It's that old idea that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But it's more than that. It's about meaning, about finding purpose in the suffering, about using it as a catalyst for growth. The show doesn't shy away from these moments. It makes it clear that the only way to grow is to face one's fears, to confront one's weaknesses, and to strive towards a higher ideal. Fluttershy doesn't become assertive by staying comfortable. She becomes assertive by stepping out, by pushing herself, by confronting her fears of conflict. Twilight doesn't become a leader by staying in the library. She grows by stepping into the unknown, by accepting responsibilities that she doesn't feel ready for, by facing the possibility of failure. This is a core tenet of the human experience. Growth is the product of voluntary confrontation with the things that most challenge us. It's about stepping into the chaos, about willingly facing the dragon, about taking on the burden of responsibility, even when you're scared. even when you feel inadequate. And it's not just about individual growth, it's about collective growth too. The group grows when the individuals within it grow. When each character faces their own challenges, they become more capable of contributing to the group, of being a better friend, a better leader, a better member of the community. Suffering then is not just something to be endured, it's something to be embraced, something that, when faced with courage and with the support of those around us, becomes the very thing that makes us who we are. It's the crucible in which character is forged. And that's a hard truth, but it's a necessary one. It's through suffering that we find out who we are, that we discover what we're capable of, that we become more than we were before. Magic in My Little Pony is more than a mere tool. It's symbolic of potential. It's the capacity to act, to transform reality, both inner and outer. You see, Twilight Sparkle's progression in magic parallels her personal growth. As she becomes more competent, more connected to others, her magical abilities also increase. And that's meaningful, isn't it? Because it shows that our abilities, our capacities, are not static. They grow in tandem with who we are, with how we relate to the world, with how much we care, with how much we dare to strive. It's about potential, about the latent capabilities within us that can only be brought forth through effort, through courage, through connection. Magic represents the latent possibilities within every individual. It's a tool, but also a symbol of the divine spark, that part of us capable of transcending our limitations, bringing forth something meaningful. It's about creation, about taking the raw material of existence and shaping it into something beautiful, something purposeful. The fact that magic is often wielded in cooperation with others further emphasizes that our highest potential is realized not in isolation, but through our connections. It's when Twilight works with her friends, when they bring their unique strengths together, that magic truly flourishes. And that's a profound metaphor for human potential. It's about realizing that our true power, our true magic, if you will, comes from our relationships, from our ability to connect, to collaborate, to build something together that none of us could build alone. Magic, then, is not just about spells and enchantments. It's about the potential within all of us to be more, to do more, to bring something good into the world. It's about the power of transformation, the power to take what is and turn it into what could be. And that's something that resonates deeply, doesn't it? Because it speaks to our innate desire to grow, to change, to be agents of our own destiny. It's about the idea that within each of us lies something powerful, something capable of transforming not just our own lives, but the lives of those around us. And that's what makes it magic, isn't it? It's not just about the extraordinary. It's about the extraordinary potential that lies within the ordinary, within each of us, waiting to be brought forth. My Little Pony excels as a children's show because it teaches moral lessons without condescension. The stories are layered enough that both children and adults can take away valuable insights. Morality in these narratives isn't rigid, it's flexible, emphasizing empathy, understanding, and the complex, nuanced situations that require careful judgment. It recognizes that real life isn't always about clear distinctions between right and wrong, but often about making the best choice possible in a complicated world. This kind of moral complexity is what gives the show its depth and makes it resonate with a broad audience. The show uses the characters' journeys to convey these lessons. Storytelling, after all, is how we transmit values across generations. It's how we teach not through didactic instruction, but through relatable, emotionally resonant journeys. And it's far more powerful because of that. When viewers see Twilight Sparkle struggle with the weight of responsibility, or Rarity balance her own ambitions with her desire to be generous, they see reflections of their own experiences. These stories are not just about giving instructions. They're about showing how moral decisions play out in real time, with all the uncertainty, struggle, and personal growth that entails. Storytelling in this context becomes a means for children and adults alike to explore different perspectives. By experiencing the characters' dilemmas and triumphs, viewers are encouraged to put themselves in another's shoes to see the world through the eyes of others. This promotes empathy, a crucial aspect of moral development. Empathy is what allows us to see the humanity in others, to understand that everyone is fighting their own battles, and that sometimes the right choice requires compassion and understanding, not just adherence to a set of rules. The use of recurring themes, such as redemption and forgiveness, also illustrates that morality is about transformation and growth. Characters like Starlight Glimmer make serious mistakes, but they are given the opportunity to learn, to change, and to contribute positively to their community. This teaches viewers that everyone has the potential for growth, that no one should be judged solely by their worst moments. It's an uplifting and hopeful message, one that emphasizes the importance of second chances and the belief in the goodness that lies within all of us. Finally, friendship in the show is not just a personal bond. It's a stand-in for the very social bonds that hold civilization together. The elements of harmony, representing honesty, loyalty, generosity, kindness, laughter, and magic, are what allow Equestria to flourish. Civilization itself is built upon the principles of trust, cooperation, and mutual regard. These elements aren't just abstract ideals. They are the glue that holds societies together, the bedrock on which thriving communities are built. By working together, by being honest, by being kind, these ponies are actively building and maintaining the fabric of their world. This is something we often forget, but it's essential. Civilization is a miracle, but it's a fragile one. It's not just about laws and institutions. It's about the everyday interactions that foster trust and cooperation. It has to be continuously nurtured, maintained by acts of friendship and responsibility, or else it risks collapse. Friendship, in this sense, becomes synonymous with the social contract, the understanding that we are all in this together and that our actions affect the well-being of others. The show presents friendship as a powerful force, one that can overcome obstacles, heal wounds, and bring about real change. The elements of harmony are not just magical artifacts. They symbolize the traits that, when combined, make a society resilient and strong. Honesty builds trust, loyalty ensures reliability, kindness fosters compassion, generosity strengthens bonds, laughter brings joy and lightness, and magic, the essence of connection, ties it all together. Together, these elements represent the ideal towards which any civilization should strive. The final message of the show is a reminder of the importance of these connections, the need to care for each other if we are to build a society that is worth living in. It's about realizing that we all have a part to play, that the small acts of kindness and understanding we show each day are what ultimately hold civilization together. It tells us that the greatest power we have is the power to connect, to uplift, to be there for one another. Friendship isn't just magic. It's a foundation that makes life meaningful and worthwhile.